Hey, y'all, welcome back to the show. My name is Joe Alvarez, and this is Cinematicians. Today, I'm going to be talking with a good friend of mine and a colleague in the movie buff industry. We've been talking about the Oscars, and that's what we're going to start talking about first. So, may I introduce my good cousin, Owen Parker?
Hello, Joe. Happy to be here. Happy to be talking about movies and talking with you.
Absolutely, likewise. So, like I say, the first topic of discussion is the Oscars. Tell me your first thoughts about what happened with the Oscars.
Um, First thoughts, I would say somewhat predictable.
Yeah.
I think everyone knew Oppenheimer was going to go in for the big win and for a lot of wins. So that didn't really surprise me all that much, even if Oppenheimer wasn't my personal favorite of the Best Picture nominees. I think it deserved the award as well as I was pretty certain it was going to get it. Same with Cillian, I forget how to
Killian
pronounce
Murphy,
his
yeah.
name. Cillian Murphy, same with him getting Best Actor, Emma Stone getting Best Actress. I think a lot of it was fairly play by play for what I predicted at the start. Not to say that most of those weren't deserved or worthy, whether or not it was, again, with Best Picture, whether or not it was my personal favorite. I can definitely acknowledge the deserving that the films had, but I think in a word, I would say predictable.
Yeah. You think the hype for the now actually I should also clarify to the audience that neither Owen nor myself are really, professionals in this environment. We just love to watch the movies and we love to talk about it. We had a big group chat that we were part of that kept bringing up the Oscars. Owen and I were constantly putting in our reviews for stuff like that. So it's just our honest to goodness opinions on these things.
We are
Um,
professional fans.
we are
That's
professional
what.
fans. I like the way you put it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're making our way up there as professional critics, hopefully, maybe one day.
Yep,
Um,
yep. I'll see you in the papers.
exactly. Um, but yeah, the leading actors and actresses, you pretty much put it out. They practically deserved all of it. Were you able to watch Poor Things? I wasn't able to catch that one.
So, out of all the Best Picture nominees, the only two I missed were Poor Things and Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
I managed to see all of the others, and most, if not all, were very good. I've heard good things about the other two. I've heard mixed things about the other two. Neither one had all perfect reviews. I've heard great things about Emma Stone's performance. So even though I hadn't seen the film Poor Things, I was hedging my bets that Emma Stone was going to win that award.
Yeah.
Zone of Interest, I had heard mostly good things about. Uh, I didn't miss that one for lack of trying, and I hope to watch it within a week or so, but I just could not fit it in before the actual Oscars ceremony. So those are the only two I missed.
Yeah. And then what do you think if Oppenheimer, I guess I'm curious about your opinion. I think I might have heard it before, but if Oppenheimer hadn't won Best Picture, what do you think your bet or your preference even would have been?
My preference, my favorite movie of the year was Cord Jefferson's American Fiction. That movie, I thought was hilarious and poignant. I thought the ensemble cast was incredible. I mean, Jeffrey Wright in the lead role was great, but I thought all the supporting cast was great as well. And I found the script to be very funny, and as well as properly satirical, which is something that I did not feel was as consistent with Barbie the same year. So my personal favorite, if I was the lone Academy member voting on Best Picture, I would have handed it to American Fiction. If Oppenheimer wasn't the winner, my guess for the actual Academy would probably have been Poor Things, just based on what I've heard people say about it. Again, it's one of the two I had not seen, but based on buzz, based on what others have had to say about it, if it wasn't Oppenheimer, my guess was that that would be where they would lean.
The other guy in Poor Things, that was Mark Ruffalo, wasn't it?
Yes, yes, and he was
Yeah.
nominated for Best Supporting for that one too,
Yeah.
which maybe he's fantastic in that, but if I was just to go off the other things I've seen him in, I'm not a big Mark Ruffalo fan.
Hmm.
I thought he was fairly good in Spotlight, the 2015 Best Picture winner.
Hmm.
But looking at his big roles as Bruce Banner in the MCU or a couple of his other things, uh I don't know, his recent things like the Adam Project, a lot of the more blockbustery action films.
Yeah.
He's not a personal favorite actor of mine. So maybe he's great in Poor Things. Haven't gotten around, but I was kind of shocked to see him up there.
Yeah. He's given me some weird, I don't know, just on his track record, some weird almost discount Nick Cage vibes. You know what I mean by
I
that?
actually
Yeah.
do. He kind of has that same kind of soft spoken, but what's going on kind of
And
thing.
like he could go crazy, but it wouldn't make sense. Nick Cage, sometimes it can work, but at other times it's just like, wait, where did this come from?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also a bit of a there. While he's also soft spoken, he also has less emotion on his face normally. Um,
Yeah.
one of the reasons I kind of agree with you on Jeffrey Wright's performance was he had really good emotion, but it was so subtle, and I think the
Mhm.
Oscars tend to look over that a lot. Um,
Mhm.
although they did recognize him as a nominee, so
Yeah.
I was really hoping he would get it if it hadn't been for Cillian Murphy. And I think there's something too with Cillian Murphy and Bradley Cooper. They were both in biopics, and there's just something about biopics, you know, about acting acting as a real person who lived. Uh, there's a lot. It's a lot easier to work off of that.
Mhm.
Um, but I think you and I try to look at the performance alone and then move out from there.
Right, and that's the thing. That's the thing with biopics is it gives you a measure of how close they performed. Like
Mm-hmm.
with Cillian Murphy and Bradley Cooper, especially. And I did not get around to seeing Rustin, but Coleman Domingo that was a biopic that Coleman Domingo was
That's
nominated
right.
Best Actor for. And so the Academy, we know they go gaga over biopics. Like it just they love seeing these things, and like I said, it gives a close metric for the actors to for the Academy to base. Was this a good performance? In did they reflect very closely the real life person that they're portraying?
Yeah,
So for someone
exactly.
like Killian Murphy and Bradley Cooper, who put in performances. Bradley Cooper playing Leonard Bernstein is we have a lot of footage of him and like this guy lived in a media age. We have a little bit of we have some recordings of Oppenheimer, J. Robert Oppenheimer, um, that we know what he sounded like. We have photographs, we know what he looked like, but there's not as much as we have Leonard Bernstein, who lived very prominently in the media age, where we have him in many interviews and recordings and things that we have this idea. We know what he looked like, we know what he sounded like. um so we can compare, okay, the actor did a really good job portraying this guy that we know how he acted.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in an original story like American Fiction or with Jeffrey Wright or Paul Giamatti and The Holdovers, is they just have a script with a character who's based off the writer's imagination, and the writer and the actor and the director all need some, and sometimes it's all the same person, but that the writer, director, and actor all need to agree on how this character is going to be portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can make that character feel like a real person, and if you can make this fictional movie feel like a biopic because of how real this character feels, then I think that's a great measure of not just the acting but the writing as well. And I love that about American Fiction. Going back to that, um I think Thelonious felt like a real character, like it felt
Yeah.
like he was an author who who is struggling to break through barriers that should not have been placed, you know. But he wasn't a one note righteous guy. He had his own problems. He was prideful. He was, you know, he had his own prejudices as well. That like he felt like a real person from both the writing side and through Jeffrey Wright's great performance. So now I don't know for certain that Jeffrey Wright deserved the best actor as much as I want to give American Fiction Best Picture. I don't know for certain that Jeffrey Wright deserved Best Actor over Cillian Murphy. They were both great in their
Yeah.
respective movie. They were both great in their respective movies, and I'm not upset that Cillian Murphy got the Oscar. I just have a lot of good things to say about American Fiction.
Yeah, it was really funny. I was looking at Instagram, and I have this Irish Daily uh page that I look at every once in a while, and they went crazy. Cork went crazy when Cillian Murphy won his first Academy Award. So that was really entertaining to watch. And then I guess RDJ's performance was also pretty spot on. Even just because I wasn't familiar with the actual character that he played,
Mhm.
but even just his overall performance of a character, kind of both both the it was kind of the foil character to Killian's a bit, where in some ways he was kind of working with him, but then it all kind of came crumbling down in their relationship, and I think he portrayed that really well.
Yeah, I thought Robert Downey Jr. did very well in that one too.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with like, you know, becoming almost unrecognizable under under
He
the
lost almost
makeup
all his hair.
and things like that. Like just looking at the original still shots, I was like, wait, that's RDJ. And then like I heard his voice in the trailer. I was, oh, yep, that's
Right.
RDJ.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
he's not exactly one of those ones that I would have struck with like, oh, he has a really recognizable voice. Like Christopher Walken, you know when
Oh,
someone
of
does a
course, yeah.
Christopher Walken impression. You know when someone does like, you know, a Robert De Niro or a Nick Al Pacino. Like some of these guys, they've got like these such impressionable voices and things like that. But I didn't realize just how much I would recognize Robert Downey Jr.'s voice until I heard the trailer of Oppenheimer and then saw the movie compared to seeing the face under the makeup. And then I don't know if you ever saw Jamie Foxx's impression of Robert Downey Jr., but there was
No, I have. I know he's done a ton of really funny impressions. Like he's probably from some other sources that I've seen, he has done probably the best Trump impression I've ever
Jamie Foxx.
heard.
I have
Jamie
not.
Foxx,
I
yeah.
have not seen his Trump impression. I have not seen. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
funny. Like that guy's funny, but I didn't realize just how recognizable Robert Downey Jr.'s voice was until I heard Jamie Foxx do like a spot on.
Right.
I was like, oh
He's
wow.
suddenly
Like,
become one of those actors.
yeah, that's
And that's
pretty.
also really funny. Like there's some kind of poetic justice, because he played the big Oscar winner in Tropic Thunder.
Yeah,
Fantastic film, and then now he's finally gotten an Oscar for
yeah.
a dramatic role.
For a dramatic role. Well, so that's the thing with Tropic Thunder. I didn't love the whole movie that much. There were some funny moments, but I think most of it was relying on tropes from other films, which was part of the gag. But
Yeah.
I thought Robert Downey Jr. was hilarious in that one
Oh yeah,
as Kirk
absolutely.
Lazarus. I thought he was hilarious. I've never been a big Jack Black fan
Yeah,
except for
neither have
like
I. Yeah,
except for like the Kung Fu Panda movies. He's a great
Kung Fu
voice act,
Panda,
great voice actor.
yeah, exactly. I think, and I don't think I can imagine anyone else playing his character in School of Rock either. Not that that was a great movie, but
I haven't seen
it's
it.
kind of his movie now.
I haven't seen School of Rock, but yeah,
Yeah,
I think Ben Stiller and Robert Downey Jr. carried Tropic Thunder. But oh,
exactly,
gotta hand it
exactly.
to Tom Cruise
Oh,
there for
exactly right. I was gonna say
that.
the other makeup wonder,
Yeah.
the whole dance routine at the end. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, so to kind of segue a little bit, as on Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, my mind goes to both that film and when Gary Oldman won Best Actor for Darkest Hour,
hmm
playing Winston Churchill. Um, just that these famous actors are made almost unrecognizable under their under their prosthetics and their makeup and things like that. And those movies tend to win the Oscar for makeup and hairstyling, which this year Poor Things beat Oppenheimer for makeup and hairstyling, while Robert Downey Jr. won Best Supporting Actor for Lewis Strauss. And not to say his performance was bad, but that he was artificially made
It's
to
kind of given
look
a leg up with the makeup.
right. He was given a leg up, and same goes for like Bradley Cooper and Maestro.
Yeah.
And did you hear all the controversy surrounding the nose and things like that?
I didn't hear controversy. I just noticed it myself and realized, wow, that's kind of how he blends the character besides the weight loss.
Yeah, so Bradley Cooper not being of, Jewish ethnicity and portraying Leonard Bernstein with his, prominent nose, and then putting prosthetics and makeup over his nose to make him closer. And the same year, Golda was nominated for Best Achievement in Makeup and Hairstyling, about Golda Meir. And it has Helen Mirren playing her, a British white woman playing an Israeli woman. And both Bradley Cooper and Helen Mirren received prosthetics and makeup on their faces to give them to change their ethnic appearance. And so it almost seems disingenuous at times to give certain awards to certain people. Like, if we had Gary Oldman without the fat suit of Winston Churchill in The Darkest Hour, like, no one would cast him as Winston Churchill because he doesn't look like him. I mean, in the King's Speech, they had Timothy Spall play Winston Churchill, and they had to do less on him because he is of a closer girth, I suppose, to Churchill. Whereas Gary Oldman, dude's thin.
Yeah, he's skinny as all get. Like if you go back even to the Dark Knight movies, like you would not have thought of him as Winston Churchill for sure.
You're not going to look at Commissioner Gordon in The Dark Knight and be like, yes.
He can pull off the accent, maybe do an audio recording, but yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, so I think my question with this, and I don't suppose there'd be an answer, but it's like, are certain actors given a leg up through the makeup and hairstyling, and how much of it when we look at their performances, are we seeing their performance, and how much of it are we seeing under makeup and hairstyling? And so in a case such as Robert Downey Jr. winning an Oppenheimer for Lewis Strauss, not to say anything against his performance, but considering that, would he even have gotten the part if they didn't have the makeup and hairstyling things?
Well, I think that's a funny thing too, because both Maestro and Oppenheimer had that heavy makeup application, and they're also the biopics. So like you already had a reference not only for the character but also how they look, right? So being the cooperative project that filmmaking is, it would seem that would have to work both ways to give them that Oscar. Yeah, something to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I suppose that just comes. I mean, I guess it does make sense, is that, film is a cooperative effort. It's not just the actor acting or the makeup and hairstylist makeuping and hairstyling. So it is cooperative, but it's like, when you look at things like Maestro and Golda, both this past year, and you see these white, Caucasian actors getting cast in Jewish roles, it's like, the question is like, well, are we taking roles away from Jewish actors or whatever, that of people who could be portraying their own people? And I'm for breaking boundaries and things like that, but
one does wonder like where the proportion is, where one ends and where the other begins.
Right. So it's like the ethics of ethnics.
I like that, the ethics of ethnics.
Like, the ethics of ethics is like, I believe that Bradley Cooper and Helen Mirren are both very talented actors, and not gonna lie, I thought Bradley Cooper's Bernstein voice was extremely annoying in watching. And I've watched some Bernstein interviews, and it's he doesn't sound that bad. He has a little bit of it, but it's not like the really nasal kind of thing that Bradley Cooper does through a whole 2.5 hours of his
Oh
movie.
gosh,
Oh,
man.
oh
That
goodness. Oh, this is
Yeah, there are like
oh.
two things that you just touched on that I would love to talk about. The first part is like um just how long movies are, especially these days, especially with the ones that were nominated for Best Picture. Like Oppenheimer is kind of on a grand, almost epic scale, so I almost forgive it for that. Killers of the Flower Moon tried to do that, but it was so slow and rather boring. It could have been cut down by like an hour. And then there was Maestro, where it was 2.5 hours of
Just
Bradley Cooper and all his fellow actors interrupting each other all the time. That was the thing that really bugged me about that script
oh
and the
yeah.
dialogue. It was so confusing and so messy. Yeah, those were my big personal grudges on those movies this year. Just the length, and especially on Maestro. There were a couple other things that I wasn't really big on, but yeah.
Did you have you seen His Girl Friday, the 40s or 30s film with Cary Grant and I don't remember who else it is.
Probably
Uh,
not.
but yeah, it's an old film, but it's probably an hour and a half. But it wouldn't surprise me if they have some kind of dialogue record because of all it speaking over and talk interrupting and whatever that happens. Like that movie, like I kind of got I kind of reminisced on that one watching Maestro with people like talking over it. It was like, wow, everyone is talking at once. I just imagine what that script looked like.
It was like almost too much of an emphasis on realism of dialogue, right? Where sometimes like what's been happening every once in a while on Zoom meetings, right? We kind of accidentally cut each other off, and that does happen in the real world. But like every other line, and also like half of the interrupting dialogue was so useless. Like it didn't need to be there.
Yeah, that's right. That's something that I noticed with a couple of the films. So maybe Maestro as well as Past Lives.
Mhm.
Uh, oh, what was her name? Greta, not Greta, Greta Lee. Greta Lee was the actress. Celine Song, the director writer. Um, that I felt that one was focusing a lot on the realism aspect of it. So like the dialogue was not really uh polished, and except for sometimes when it felt really like intentionally poeticized, I guess.
Mhm.
I enjoyed Past Lives to a degree. I think it was a very beautiful film, but at the same time, I think there was kind of there was beauty in the simplicity as well as a little kind of stagnation. And
Mhm.
then at times it even struck me as slightly pretentious. Um, but I did find the acting especially to be very impressive in that one. But yeah, Past Lives and Maestro, even kind of holdovers. There were oh, uh, not to rag on not to blow this horn too much, but I think American fiction really balanced the line between like realistic sounding as well as kind of polished. No, a lot of writers go heavy into profanity and swearing to make it realistic sounding, which to be honest, American fiction did have a lot of profanity and swearing,
Yeah.
but a lot of it was, you know, extremely intentional in its satirical nature. Like, you know what I'm talking about, the major plot point of the major
Exactly.
plot point of the film regarding a swear word.
It'll be
Um
titled that or nothing.
or another yeah. So um I mean I'm not exactly a prude. I can watch a movie that includes swearing, but at a certain point it just gets tiring and or useless, or because like the shock value wears off.
Hmm.
Um, so I think American Fiction actually kind of brought a little bit of the shock value back to the swear. Like
Right.
like there was the question of, is this a thing we can publish? Is this a thing that's good to say a lot and share with people? And it brought kind of satirical punch to the script, I think, that actually made a curse funny again. Like I haven't laughed at the F word in a long time until that movie.
Right.
It's like,